If everybody would wake up in the morning, turn to their spouse and say, we would save millions upon millions upon millions of marriages from going into divorce. This guy that you're looking at right now, Jeff, has been through an awakening in his life over the past few weeks after his wife called for a separation. He came to me. I've known him for 30 years, and we started talking about the relationship, what happened to push her away from him, and ask for a separation. And we came to a lot of conclusions together. And one of the big ones, and I think probably the most important one to start with, is pride versus humility. Pride being somebody who believes that they're always right, believes that everyone else is the problem. If they do something wrong, they can't see it, they won't acknowledge it. They blame other people, they make excuses for it. Humility, the ability to see yourself in an honest way and to be able to look at other people and try to empathize with their situation, put yourself in their shoes, see how it is that they're feeling and why they're feeling that way, try to get insight into what makes them happy and accept the fact that what makes you happy might be different than what makes them happy, and accepting and acknowledging that, where somebody who's filled with pride is not going to care what the other person wants if it doesn't align with what they want. So the difference between pride and humility, if you first understand the difference and then look at yourself to see which of those two categories you fall into, a prideful person will probably say, I'm not full of pride. So you're going to be stuck. If you know someone well enough, you're going to be able to tell whether or not they have prideful tendencies or not. But whether the person will admit it depends on how much pride they really have. Because if you become filled with an abundance of pride, you will never be able to see your impact on other people. You will never be able to acknowledge when they point something out to you that you may have made a mistake. You may be doing something wrong, that you may be the problem in a relationship. And so many people who break up, so many people who go down that road to separation or divorce, they're pointing fingers at the other person. They did this, they did that. If only they did this, this wouldn't have happened. If only they did that, we would still be together. But ultimately, the first step is to look in the mirror and ask yourself a question. Am I behaving in the way that I should within the context of a healthy relationship? And in the course of the conversation with Jeff and I, we were able to determine that his life in general and his relationship, he was filled with a sense of pride that did not allow him to see what his wife really needed, what his wife really wanted. He felt that his way was the best way, and he was doing things to satisfy himself and not thinking of the consequences that they would have on his wife and how she felt. So get into that, Jeff. Get into the realization of the fact that you had been living with this shield of pride for all these years, and stark contrast now that with where you are now.
Yeah, it's awakening is a great word to describe it. I needed to be smacked in the face in order to see what I see now. I couldn't see, you couldn't have told me, I don't know, I guess I needed the event of the separation and to feel, to actually hit me with a feeling. I had numbed out in a lot of ways, and in life, I used food in a lot of ways to numb things out. But I just tuned out in life, and I think that allowed me to escalate the level of pride that I probably had over the years. So I don't think it was always as bad or as unhealthy as it got to, but it got real bad. And as I reflect on that, and you helped me a whole lot with this, man, I wouldn't be able to turn this around if it wasn't for you. It's changed my life, facing it for what it is and waking up to the fact that anybody, I'm sure any relationship you can look at, and if you dissect it and you want to go back and forth and see who's right about this and who's wrong about that and keep score and all that, there's things you can find. But you mentioned there, you gotta start with you. and I wasn't starting with me at all. I was blocking me out. I didn't let me look at me. I literally had a huge weight problem. I was over 350 pounds. And that's how, this started. We were working on my weight loss journey, and we've gotten to here where, since this revelation, I've had quickly escalating success in losing weight. And I think a lot of it has to do with getting in touch with reality. I wasn't living in a reality. I was living in some kind of fantasy where nobody could tell me I was wrong. And it affected every aspect of my life. And by far the most tragic aspect is the effect it had on loved ones, and my wife in particular. So in the relationship. So pride is evil. I'm seeing that more than ever. I would have never, this stuff would have never really crossed my mind or occurred to me. I never really thought about it much until you hit me in the face with it. You mentioned the word humility to me, and we talked about that a little bit, and then you helped me apply it to myself. And that's been a game changer. It's been a real game changer. So that concept, for somebody who's facing struggles in life and maybe questioning why that's happening, I think that's why we're talking today, because I hope it can reach them before it gets to the point where I got.
Yeah, a level of pride, which most people have a level of pride that they contend with at some point in their lives, but for others, it becomes a part of who they are. They believe that everything they do is right, that other people that do it differently are wrong. And it spills over not just in what they believe is right about society in general, but also about their opinions. And it just get as simple as someone has a different favorite color, like they believe that person's wrong about liking that color better than the color they like. It could get really pathological and really deep. And in a relationship, you have two people that come in with different preferences, with different needs, with different desires. Most people, when they get together, don't talk about what those needs and desires are, but you can usually, when you get together with someone, if you have humility, if you have two people with humility, they can figure out what the other person needs and wants, and over time, and they can end up developing a relationship that works based on mutual respect. But then when you have somebody, if it's one or both parties, which is even worse, but if it's just one party that's filled with pride, they're not going to care what the other person thinks. If it conflicts with what they want, they will push for what they want. And then the other person is going to feel neglected, they're going to feel disrespected, they're going to feel ignored, and they're eventually going to feel disconnected. And that disconnection over time eventually results in somebody who either deviates by meeting somebody else who does make them feel a certain way, and then unfortunately they have an affair, or it leads to somebody who's just feeling depressed about being stuck in a situation that's unfulfilling because it doesn't feel like the other person cares. Because honestly, if someone's not listening to what your needs are, do they care? No, they don't care. I mean, ultimately, that's what it comes down to. They don't. They care about what they want, but they're not caring about what I want. So it feels very difficult to be able to make a situation like that work. And inevitably, that's what leads most relationships that fail to fail. Because one or both parties have a sense of pride. They're not able to see the situation from the other person's perspective, and they feel that the other person should become them, who they are. They should become synonymous, and that's not the way relationships are supposed to work. You have two different individuals that are coming together, and they're learning how to love through getting to know one another, and they have to give up a piece of themselves to love another person well. You're not living the single life anymore. You're living a married life. You're living a coexistence with another human being. So you have to get to know them. You have to get to know what they want. You have to be willing to be able to adapt some of your preferences to what it is that makes them happy. And you end up compromising in that regard. And that's how you learn how to respect and love one another. In your situation, just talk about how that went awry. Just talk about how you got into a situation where you felt as if it wasn't consistent with what it is that you felt a strong desire for, that it wasn't something that you wanted to pursue, or you didn't even really show the interest in figuring out what the other person wanted if it really wasn't of interest to you. Like if you could not feel as if it's something you also desire, there really wasn't something that you were going to really become curious about.
Yeah, I mean, I think the shocking part for me is that, I would always have considered myself somebody with a big heart and somebody who has love for other humans, of all, just in general. And I'm a loving, caring person, love animals, love people, what I mean? Like I kind of hung my hat on that. I hung my hat on the fact that my intentions were always good. I never mean harm to anybody, and that's genuine. But I'm waking up to the realization that that's great, but it doesn't really add up. It doesn't matter what to a large extent, your intentions are one thing, but it really ultimately comes down to what your actions show. Your actions speak louder than any words, and I also struggled with another challenge you and I continue to talk about, with just being basically a man child, and not growing up until very recently in a lot of ways, emotionally. So I'm waking up to all this at once, and yeah, I don't know. It's tough to distinguish the line between one and the other when it comes to some of these things, and I just know that it's very costly. It's very costly if you let it get out of control. And if I look back, I feel like, you and I struck up a really close friendship that turned, to brotherhood, honestly, in the teenage years. And we maintained that, over 30 years later. And now, so, as well as anybody, my heart, and that I do truly have good intentions, and I care for people, and I know how to love, and I'm passionate about that. I could have never seen this happening to me. I could have never seen me being somebody who failed at a relationship, particularly one of this magnitude. I'm I waited late in life to get married, and with the full intention that it was going to be one and done. I'm only going to have one wife, and that's going to be it. And it's going to be happily ever after. And it's going to be, easy breezy. Yeah. I guess that's just what I thought, and it's not easy breezy. You got to put effort into it. No matter who your spouse is, it's teamwork. And when I wake up, and you've helped me reflect a lot, and I see that I wasn't the teammate that I thought I was at all. And I've been a member of a lot of teams, and I've coached a lot of teams, and it's kind of shocking to me because I understand the concept thoroughly of teamwork, and I preach it and I believe in it, and yet I didn't practice it in the most important relationship of my life. So it's crazy how disconnected I got from reality, and what my role was in that. And it's, I don't know how I got so off track. I don't know if I've figured all the way out. You might know better than I do how I got so far off track, but it's here now, and I'm dealing with it, and trying to grow through it. And I'm in so much pain that I just don't want anybody else to experience this that doesn't have to. If you can snap yourself out before it's too late, before real harm comes to you, your spouse, your children, other relationships, your career, it can affect a lot of things that are near and dear and important to you. And if you can catch it before I did, then you can save yourself a lot of harm, and a lot of harm for others that you love.
To answer your question, I believe that you were never on track. I think most people that get married, they get married with the intention of they have feelings for the other person. They feel as if, well, I'm attracted to them. We hang out. Everything's going okay. It's fine. I could see like living with this person. I could see having a kid with this person. And then they get married and they have good intentions going in. But then what does it take to make a relationship work with another human being living with that person every day for the rest of your life? Now, that's a totally different story. There's a lot of questions that need to be asked. There's a lot of prodding to find out what that person's all about, to be able to determine whether I, the person who's getting married, the person who's getting in a relationship, I'm willing to give up a piece of myself for this other person, because you will have to do that to make a relationship work. You're not living the single life anymore. The single life is I live for me and me alone. I can do whatever I want when I want to do it. If I want to buy something, I buy it. If I want to go somewhere, I go. I don't have to tell anyone that I'm going. I don't have to tell anyone when I'm coming home. I can plan vacations where I want to go. I don't have to worry about where anyone else wants to go. It's all about me. It does breed narcissism. And as we're getting married later in life, narcissism becomes more a part of who we are, because we're living with ourselves for longer and longer and longer periods, outside of teen years, into the 20s, into the 30s, etc. So it causes somebody to really become one with themselves, but they haven't learned the skills of what it takes to be able to learn about another person and be able to give up some of our preferences, give up some of the things that we find to be appealing in order to make the other person happy, in order to make a functional, fulfilling relationship. And so people will get married and then figure out after they get married that this is not as easy as it had seemed going in, because once you're living with someone and once you start seeing that person on a very intimate basis regularly, and you start seeing their habits, you start seeing their preferences, you start seeing that, well, I feel as if this is taking too much away from me, from what I thought I was before I got married. And then suddenly you start thinking, whoever gets married starts thinking, I'm just going to hold on to what I was before I got married, because that felt more comfortable to me than what this feels. And then you start pushing for what you want and pushing against the other person rather than working with the other person. This is very typical. This is not something that most people who get married don't go through. It's just the difference is the ones who do get married and go through this, some of them decide to have the humility and embrace the humility to be able to work through it together and be able to see that whatever problems they're bringing into the relationship are, and be able to work on those and be able to do those together, and things can get better. But the people who are filled with that deep sense of pride, they don't think they're doing anything wrong. They think the other person is being unreasonable for wanting something different than what they want. And so they keep pushing back, and nothing ever gets accomplished when you do that, other than creating turmoil and strife. One thing you brought up a little bit earlier was, and we talked about this privately, was the I never intended to hurt anybody. And I don't think most people ever intend to hurt anybody. I think you'd have to be, you have certain pathological psychopaths that are out there that they do like hurting people. But the vast majority of people who commit mistakes in life, or they're living certain lifestyles, they're not looking to hurt another person. They're looking to gain something in their life, or hold on to something in their life that they find valuable or that makes them feel a certain way. So if someone has an affair on somebody who they're married to, they'll pursue something that feels good because they're not getting what they want out of their current relationship. They don't want the person they're married to find out, because they don't want them to be hurt, and they want to hold on to the vestiges of whatever that is. They don't want to hurt the other person, but they want to gain the benefit of feeling wanted by somebody else. So the intention is not to hurt anyone. They're not thinking of hurting. They're not doing it to hurt, but they are hurting someone in the process. So I think that's where most people are in life, where they'll be making choices that are hurtful, but not considering the pain involved in the choice they're making. For example, with the weight gain, you had gained a significant amount of weight, went up to 354 pounds. 354.6 was the highest before we started. You're down, and the goal is to keep losing. and you're doing an amazing job. But when you were 350, we just looked at a picture of you at 354 pounds, showed it to you, and you couldn't believe it. You were so shocked and horrified by that picture that I showed you. And you were 354 and you saw yourself every day in the mirror, but you didn't see yourself every day in the mirror. You weren't paying attention to any of that. The consequence of what you were doing was never in view. You never thought about ruining your health, the way that you looked, how your wife felt being married to a man who was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. None of that ever flowed through your mind once. What you did think about was food makes me feel good, so I'm going to eat it. When I want to eat it, I'm going to eat it. And that's part of it. This is a pretty great example of what it's like to sleepwalk throughout life in a prideful way, thinking that I can get away with whatever it is that I want and not thinking of how it affects other people or even myself in the process. So talk a little bit about that, the process of, embracing behaviors in life that you just don't even acknowledge that there's any downside to because they're so intoxicatingly fun, and feeling as if you just have the right to continue to pursue them and not think of any consequences associated with them. That's who you were before. That's not who you are now, but that's who you were before for so many years, for 49 years of your life.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even use the word embracing it. I didn't embrace it. It just happened. I don't know how to describe it. That's just what I did. I somehow got into a pattern where food was the escape, I guess, as we've talked. And that was, I wasn't even, you could have, we've talked, and I could have identified that I, at some point as an adult, so to speak, I recognized that I linked stressful times to times where I would indulge more in food, but I really couldn't articulate or really connect that how strongly food was impacting me. I couldn't feel like anything the way I can now. Without being humbled. I had to be humbled to feel, and I've been humbled, and now I can feel pain. I can feel, I think I was just averse to feeling any negative emotions, and I think food was actually, you've helped me figure all this out, but I mean, food was readily available as a drug, basically, to me so early in the process that I would never allow anything uncomfortable to allow me to really have a significant level of discomfort before I went to the food. It's not like I thought about it. It was an instinct at that point. It was just a natural reaction. I look back and I had stressful days at work, and like the first thing I'm doing on the way home is go to the drive-through, and I would have chalked it up a lot of times just being hungry, but it's a lot more than that. But I mean, I had no level of consciousness of that, and it really reveals itself more and more every day as I've grown more aware. And like you mentioned, yesterday we saw the picture of where I started the weight loss journey, and I was horrified, and I'd never felt that way when I looked at my picture or looked in the mirror. I never felt that way before, because I literally was so tuned out to anything that I did not want to believe or see for myself. I was so tuned out. I couldn't see reality. I actually could not see that picture the same way when I was not fully present. And that's what I was doing all that time.
That is pride. You just described it. You really have. When other people, you do something that hurts somebody else, and that person blames you or points it out to you, and you deflect and you try and blame them, or you say it's someone else's fault, or you don't acknowledge that it even happened. That's pride. That's not looking at the reality of what you're doing, what you are doing, what behavior you're doing to hurt somebody else. And ultimately, the exact same thing applies to a relationship with ourselves. So we're doing something to hurt ourselves. The layer of pride protects us from seeing it. We don't even see it. We don't even see the fact that by eating the way that we are, we're gaining lots of weight, ruining our health. We're becoming an eyesore for everybody around us. We're making everybody around us feel very concerned about us. But none of that, we don't see it. Just like you said, you don't see it because pride prevents us from seeing the bad things that we do. Let me say that again. Pride prevents us from seeing the bad things that we do. The antidote to that is humility. Humility allows us to see ourselves in an honest way and allows us to feel the consequences of what we're doing so that way we can become better. What this means is somebody who's pathologically prideful or narcissistic, they will never get better unless they embrace humility. And many of the people who are strongly narcissistic will not accept humility. No matter what you say to them, no matter how often you say it, they don't have the capacity to do it. But then there are other people who do. There are other people who do have the ability to embrace humility. And that layer of pride is not thick. It's not calloused. It's there, but it can be broken through. You were one of those people. You were one of the people that I broke through the layer of pride, and then humility came pouring out. And I saw it with my own eyes. And the humility that you're expressing now is totally the opposite of the person that I knew for 30 years in respect to the way you view certain things in life, the way you viewed them before. Because I saw from the time I've known you 30 years ago, I knew that there was a good heart in there, but I also knew that you were making some selfish decisions along the way. But I wasn't living with you as your wife, obviously. Thankfully, what I did know is that when we hung out, everything was fine because, we weren't sharing a residence and we didn't have to make decisions together. But I always knew that there was a good heart there underneath. But then the person who's living with you is going to see that version. They're going to see like the exaggerated version of pride because that's the person that's dealing with you each and every day. And it's the one who's challenging you the most. So talk about the transition from pride to humility. Like you ended up living a life where you were blind to what you were doing. I get what I want when I want it. I don't think about consequences. This doesn't cross my mind. And then suddenly now you're seeing things clearly. You're thinking of what you've done and what you want to do. And you're looking at life in a very humble way and embracing the idea of humility in everything you do. Just talk about how it feels now and how just living this totally opposite life and opposite thought pattern to what you had before. Just give some insight in as to how that feels after 49 years of the opposite.
I mean, the crossover was painful. However, the reward on the end is more than worth it. And because I went from not feeling fully any real emotion. I mean, I probably had I had levels of emotion. I can say that, but not fully feeling in a healthy way. I'm certain now what I needed to in order to function the way I'm supposed to. And so when the changeover happens and it hits hard. It hits hard, and I don't know how much longer I have to go waking up. I think I'm pretty well awake now. I'm tuned into conversations. When I look somebody in the eye, I'm really soaking in what they're telling me, and my attention span is higher. It's I'm locked in to life more. I'm present, literally. And I remember being told, I feel like you're not present, and now I get it. So the on the other side, when you are present and when you're aware, then you start feeling emotions, and I'm still looking forward to feeling some better emotions in the future, but it serves you well ultimately to be feeling the emotions that you're supposed to be feeling, because it helps you function at a higher level. And, it's the easiest example for me to point to at this early stage of waking up is the weight loss. I was kind of farting around between, losing a pound here, gaining a half pound, losing half pound, losing another pound, gaining another half pound. It was just, going up and down a little bit and with some mild success. But this heightened awareness has made me begin to turn into my best version of myself. And I'm hooked on that, man. I just seeing the weight loss results is really the beginning. I'm losing like 5 pounds a week on average right now, and it's because I'm present and I know I can hear what you're telling me when you're coaching me up on things. I can absorb the information. I can, not only from you verbally, but when I step on the scale, it means more. Everything means more than it did before. The magnitude of stepping on that scale when I was a big pig, man, it was not good. I didn't feel anything. I just numbed it all out, and it didn't mean anything. So, if I was to step on the scale and see the old numbers before, or when I looked at that picture with the present state of mind, and I mean, there's no going back. I can't go back to what it was when I was numb and prideful. I can't. Like, I don't think my body will allow me to do it. I don't think my mind will allow me to do it. I don't think my heart will allow me to do it. So I'm here now. I think it's a lot of growing up, dude. I think there's a link between the, being childish and prideful and, growing up and being more humble. And, I've reached a point where I've gotten humbled, and, it's unforgettable. I've definitely had a poor memory over the course of my life. Some of it is probably for other reasons. However, this is something that's unforgettable. And, a lot of it is probably attributable to the fact that I wasn't fully present all the way through. And so, but this is something that's unforgettable. I won't be able to rewrite this in my mind. There's no way. I'm going to be a better person in the long run as a result of it. And I feel it already, and it's encouraging. I mean, it's a hard process for a period of time, but realistically, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel early in the process too. I'm very optimistic in a lot of ways about what the future holds, because I see a level of control that I have, and it's as being present and being aware and acknowledging good and bad. And once you can acknowledge things that aren't as pleasant through humility, that allows you to address them. And so I can see that number on the scale every week, and I'm like, I want to do something about that, and I don't want to wait. So gonna do something about that. I'm gonna do everything in my power to resolve that as fast as I can. And I can be realistic now too about the goals. I used to have unrealistic expectations and thinking I could do, things that were superhuman. I mean, just asking to lose 20 pounds in a week or whatever it was, so now I know that, I got a reasonable goal and I'm going to attack it intensely, and I wouldn't be here in any level of success if I didn't set reasonable goals and work diligently to achieve them. And that didn't come before this process. I had to get humble. I had to get rid of the foolish, sinful pride.
Everyone, please subscribe to the channel. You can follow Jeff's weight loss story because we have around 40 episodes already chronicling his 50-pound weight loss week after week after week. And he plans on losing the next 50 in record time. So you're going to want to tune in and see him at his best because it's on now, I can tell. And you're going to hear more about Jeff's life as well. I want to ask you about your marriage, because if you get the opportunity to reconcile with your wife, which is something that you would like to have happen, what's the difference going to be? I'm talking about from your perspective between the way you were and the way you plan to be. Give some insight into what the new Jeff is going to be compared to the old Jeff in relation to your relationship with your wife.
There's no comparison. There's no comparison, man. Yeah, I'm just a different person. I'm just a different person already. And not only that, I have changed so much in such a short period of time for the better, but also the will to change, the willingness to change, the strength of mind, and the desire to improve is on another level than it's ever been, and I've always identified myself as somebody who would want to improve themselves on a daily basis, right? That it's what you tell yourself, but it's really in action now. It's not talk, it's action. And there's really no comparison between what the old version was and what the new version is. And it would be somebody who's 100% attentive, to the needs that my wife has and what she asks for, and what she needs, because I woke up and realized everything she's been carrying as a result of my infantile behavior. Being a child, I was probably a lot harder to work with than anybody else in the house, and I definitely was. So yeah, it's just a polar opposite. I go from being the biggest pain and trouble imaginable to eagerly being the best support and teammate that you could dream of. It's literally that polar of a shift.
If everybody would wake up in the morning, turn to their spouse and say, "What can I do for you today?" every day, we would save millions upon millions upon millions of marriages from going into divorce. It's really about getting to know what your partner needs, getting to know who they really are, and being able to help deliver to them what it is that they want out of life, and then having them return the favor for us. It really can be beautiful, but it does take humility to be able to look at another person and say, "I want to do something that makes you happy," and really mean it. So, and I think you're there. I think you really do want that. I see it in you. I see it in your heart. I see it in your eyes. I see it in what you do. And all the effort that you're putting forth towards weight loss, it's not the only area. We've talked so much about so many different things, and I can just see that you're transforming before my very eyes into somebody who really, really can wants and craves to know what the person that they care about really, really wants out of life. So that way you can help them achieve it. And I love seeing that out of you. I really do, because that is your heart. That's the heart that I knew from day one when I met you. And now it's coming to the forefront, and it's making me really happy. And I congratulate you on everything that you're achieving. And I'm going to be walking with you every step of the way. Everybody, please subscribe, because we're going to be doing a lot more videos on these topics of Jeff's life and being able to hopefully reconcile with his wife, hopefully save his marriage, talk about his growth process, talk about where he's been, and then talk about his weight loss, because his goal is 245 pounds. And he's continuing this process, and he's hitting the gas really hard, and he's accelerating forward. He really wants to achieve much quicker results the second half than he did the first half. And I am confident that it's going to happen because I see it in his eyes and I see it in what he does and I see how determined he is and I see the change in his heart and I see the change in his mind. And it's incredible what he's done in the past few weeks. And I think you're going to be pretty impressed with what you see. And maybe you'll be inspired by it because I know he wants to help so many people around the world to save themselves from where he was. Am I right about that?
100%, maybe more. It's you can't overstate that. I don't want anybody to suffer what I've had to go through. I don't want their families to suffer what my family's had to go through. Even if I get real lucky and tie things up and get lucky, and things work out, I've caused a lot of pain, and that's the hardest thing. But I had to, unfortunately, I had to feel that. I had to own it. I had to feel it, and that's how I finally got here. I needed to wake up to realize the damage I did to people I love the most, and then I needed support from somebody I trusted, that being you primarily, and that could help me walk through the process of really properly becoming a humble person. And I've leaned in big time spiritually. I've leaned into God, and so I've tuned out a lot of negativity that I was absorbing on a daily basis, and just regular media and stuff like that. And I'm intentional, and just I'm bringing in only positivity and support, and I'm really focused on self-improvement, 24 hours a day. So we'll see what the results look like, but I'm confident as well that everything that I can control from this day forward, or even a couple weeks ago, is going to work out well. Unfortunately, it's gotten to the point where everything that I would like is not in my control anymore, and that sucks. And that's where I want to help people avoid that part. If you can catch this somehow without having to get as far out of control as I did, I really wish that for you. And if you think there's even a chance that you fit in this category or could be going down this road, I'm happy to talk to you. I'm happy to, write back to you, whatever it is. I want to help. I want to help whoever wants the help. And this guy right here on the other side of the screen will definitely be able to help.
That, my friends, is what humility looks like. You're seeing it before your very eyes. And I'm so proud of you. Anybody, comment below if you have a question for Jeff. He'll be glad to respond. I know he really does want to help. He has a passion for helping other people. Now that he's turned the corner on this, he sees where he was clearly. He knows where he wants to go, and he knows where he's at. And he really, really has developed this deep, deep desire to reach out to other people and tell his story and help them to make better choices, help them to follow the right path before it's too late. So please, everybody, subscribe and continue to watch the videos, and also comment below if you have any questions, because he really does want to respond. I love you, man.
Love you too.